Hi, I'm Torben Janssen from thoughtsonjava.org with a new Hibernate tip. The Criteria API is a great option to define queries in a programmatic and type-safe way. It supports a similar feature set as JPQL, and today I want to show you how you can use it to select multiple scalar values. The first thing you have to do is to create a criteria query that returns tuples. The tuple interface provides easy access to the selected scalar values, and I will tell you more about it later. The easiest way to create such a criteria query is to call the createTupleQuery method on the criteria builder. You then define the from and where clause of your query as you do it for any other criteria query. The only thing that's special is the definition of your projection. You have to call the multi-select method on the criteria query to define a list of the scalar values you want to select. You can see an example of it here on the slide. I used the JPA meta model to reference the first name and last name attributes of the author entity, and I also define an alias for each of them. After you have executed the query, you can use these aliases to get the values of the selected elements from the result tuple. Let's switch to the IDE and have a look at a complete example. Here you can see the whole code of the example that I used on the slide. It creates a simple query that selects the first and last name of all authors in the database. I first get a criteria builder from the entity manager and use it to create a tuple query. Then I set the author entity as the root of the query. And as the last step, I call the multi-select method to create the projection. I used the JPA meta model to reference the first name attribute and define an alias which I will use later. And I do the same for the last name attribute. That's all you have to do to create a simple query that selects two scalar values. In the next step, I create and execute the query and get the result as a list of tuple objects. I then iterate through the result and use the alias to get the selected elements from the tuple. Let's run this test and see how Hibernate handles this query. The criteria query selected only the first and last name of the author, and these are the only columns Hibernate selects in the SQL statement. And down here you can see the log output with the first and last name of each author in my small test database. Okay, that's it for today. If you want to learn more about Hibernate, you should join the free Thoughts on Java library. It gives you free access to a lot of member-only content, like an ebook about Java 8 support in Hibernate, lots of cheat sheets, and a video course. I'll add the link to it to the video description below. See you next week for a new Hibernate tip, and if you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe below.